Cage fight.
John Baptiste.
John, thanks for joining Tesseract, Dave. Yeah.
Okay, right. We are about ready. Okay, we're about 2 minutes early, but I don't mind
we can
that
tell that we can say
people turn up a bit later than normal, but
it looks better that way actually.
Huh?
Yeah. It looks better when they dial in, doesn't it? Live.
Yeah, it's not better that way. Anyway, we are here. We're on obviously ADK live stream for the 6th week in a row, I think. I think so. So thank you for those that watch it on the catch up, like most people do. But thank you for those that do actually manage to get here for the weekly live show or catch it in the shorts, etc. So what have we got coming up today? We've got quite a few news topics to talk about. We have James Monteith from Cage Fight and Tesseract joining us shortly. He'll be here at some point, so we'll let him in when he arrives anytime now to talk about. Obviously, we've got Cage Fight playing. Was it Friday this week?
Yep.
At Club 85, with all proceeds going to help support the venue, where obviously the guys are trying to buy the venue, which would be awesome. And obviously Tesseract, I don't even know what Tesseract's up to at the moment, but I'm sure we will find out at some point during this interview. We've got some news. We've got to talk about obviously the album releases this week, but have we got anything on the local? Because normally I would do my update on what's going on the channel. The only thing I can say is about we've got ADK Radio. You can download it if you go to radio.net. It's available on app stores, so Play Store and the iOS store. You can download the app from there, and you can, once you've downloaded it, you can find us under Rock and Metal. Search it in either ADK or Rock Metal, whichever way you want to do, and download it. All the actual new shows will kick in from January, 1st of January. We've got all the shows, but we've got the Autopsy Report is now going to be also hosting on here. So a 2-hour show from them. It's already on other radio stations, but will also be on ours as well. We've got a few other hosts, but we're still confirming the details on it, and a few other repeat shows that are going to be joining us. But we are now ready to have. Well, it says Hold Tight. Obviously, James Monteith does Hold Tight PR as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to let James in and admit him to the live stream. So bear with us a second.
Great timing.
That could be an instruction.
Yeah, hold tight, people. Hold tight, people. Hold tight.
Hi, James.
Hold tight, people.
Hello.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
We're very, very well. We are going to thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us. I am going to hand you over to Kirk, because Kirk has been so excited. He's literally like, he's just got like a couple of pages of A4 questions.
I'm the Tesseract fanboy. So, yeah.
He's a complete fanboy over here.
This is a signed copy of Portals, and I've got Ackle and Daniel Tompkins signed it. So I'll be bringing this on Friday, Cage Fight show. I just want to start actually, James. Have you played Club 85 in Hitchin, Hertfordshire in the past?
A long time ago. I don't think I played it with. I don't think Tesseract's ever played there. A long time ago, me and Moss, the bassist from Tesseract, were in a rap metal band called 209. You won't have heard of us because we were terrible, and it was before we actually did anything. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm certain we played Club 89, but this would have been literally 20 years ago.
I mean, Joe, Andy and I are big fans of the debut Cage Fight album.
Oh, okay.
I'm just wondering, to what extent did that band become bigger than you anticipated?
It was interesting. It was never really a band. It was like basically a bit of a lockdown project that didn't really go anywhere. Well, basically it was just me and a mate just writing ideas, and it didn't really have any expectations. And then we wrote a couple of songs, and then it sort of we thought about getting a jam together, and that's when we started talking with Nick, the drummer. But then it sort of, I don't know, life sort of carried on and almost fizzled out a bit. But then when I saw Rachel do she did a Fear Factory cover, and then there was a Black Dahlia Murder cover on that she posted. I think it was early 2021, and she had a little line saying "looking for a band." I was like, "Oh, that voice might be interesting." And so I sent her like an instrumental, and she like wrote one of the songs in literally 24 hours, and so then. Between there and 6 months later, we had written a whole album, and it was just sort of, and everything clicked. So we got together with Nick, and then So the four of us, with John, who's the old bass player, we basically made an album in 6 months. So I was a bit like, well, maybe we've got something here, because it was just a vibe thing. There wasn't a huge amount of thought put into it. It was just, we just wrote something that was really fun, and yeah, so I guess it just picked up momentum because it was so quick in that respect, and yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that we've done a load of cool festivals, tours and so on, and now we're on to our second album, and yes, pretty excited to see how it randomly took off a little bit.
Well, that's what me and Andy want to know. When can we expect a new Cage Fight record?
Well, we're literally in the studio right now, actually. All the drums are tracked. We're working on guitars and bass at the moment, and mid-December we do vocals. So it should all be recorded before Christmas, which is exciting. So the answer to answer the question, though, I don't know when it'll be released. It'll be next year at some point. I reckon summer. Just randomly throwing that out there. But hopefully a single sooner rather than later, I'd like to think.
Yeah, it was. So I'm the editor of a site called Scream Blast Repeat. We do actually review quite a few Hold Tight artists.
You do, yeah. Thank you for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and 2022 album of the year was Cage Fight, the debut album. It's quite an easy choice. That it just stood out for me, that album. But can we? Because I am a self-declared fanboy of Tesseract, I've got a few questions about Tesseract, if that's all right.
Of course.
So you're doing a second world tour in support of 2023's War of Being. Why did you decide on another year of touring rather than starting work on a new record in 2025? Because it's quite unusual 2 years later, isn't it? Even like the biggest bands of the 90s in this, if they put an album out in 93, it's rare that they'd still be touring it in 1995. What's the thinking there?
Well, I think Europe, we'd had that planned for a while because it's basically going to everywhere we didn't go. Well, not everywhere, because somebody will pop up saying, "Oh, you haven't come to me." But basically, there's no city that's the same as the last European tour. So it's basically either hitting smaller cities, like for example in the UK, I think we're doing like Brighton, Cambridge, Leeds, Cardiff. Is that it? There's another one, I think.
Are you doing Southampton?
No, we're not doing Southampton. We're doing Brighton.
Right.
But it's South Coast. So yeah, that's basically that in Europe. Although I think we are going to like Rome and Italy, which is obviously a big city, but we didn't make it last time. So yeah, that was the thinking behind that. And the idea is to start writing a new album next year. In fact, we've got plans to do that. But then we got offered this tour supporting Devin Townsend in the States in May. And that's kind of an opportunity you can't really pass up, because I think it'd be really, it's good for us to do, because his audience, it would be great for us to be exposed to them, even though there is some crossover. He has a bigger audience, so that's good for us. And also, Devin was our first ever tour of the USA, which was 15 years ago now. And so we know him and we know his crew really well, so it would just be a lovely time. So there's absolutely no way we could not do that. But then after that, we don't really have any plans. Then, I mean, we're looking at maybe the odd festival offer, but we're not going to do a big festival season. The idea is next summer to get into writing and get new material on the way. I was about to say a new album on the way, but I don't even know if that's the plan yet. At the moment, it's just get material done, get songs.
Yeah, it's not before COVID. You were on a 3-year cycle, weren't you, Tesseract, for each record? It'd be good to get back to that. I just want to. I went to Daniel Tompkins' solo show just when the COVID restrictions were lifted at the Boston Music Room, and I met A.D.K, and I said to him, when I'm listening to albums like Polaris, I basically said Tesseract are like a prog metal band writing music for the Cure and Depeche Mode's audience around 1990. And he didn't mind it, but he just laughed and said, "Oh, Sisters of Mercy," as a joke. What are your thoughts on that? Especially like Sonder and Polaris. I'm hearing those two bands. I'm not saying you're influenced by them. It's just so unique what you're doing.
I think I get what you're saying. I think it's a mixture of maybe some of the approach to the melodic tones, but also I know those eras of pop music had really distinct sort of like musical hooks, and that's one thing that A.D.K, I think, is particularly inspired by, is say, a guitar melody that is very memorable. I think it's the track Survival is actually very influenced by one of those bands. I'm trying to remember which track it is, but there's yeah, it's very actually, he'd probably kill me if I said it because I don't want people to know because they'll think I ripped it off. But it's obviously more of an instinctive thing. I can't actually remember which band or song it was, but that era of music is definitely an inspiration on the band. So that makes sense. I mean, so it's a bit more pop, but we used to nickname Dan Duran because we used to think he sounded a bit like Simon Le Bon.
Well, speaking of nicknames, you are known as James Metal Monteith, aren't you, in the band? They actually call you Metal because when I watch live streams, they'll talk about they don't say, "Oh, James is coming round tonight for rehearsal." Just be like, "Oh, Metal's coming round." What
Yeah, I
did
mean,
you have an impact on Dan going back towards some of the harsher vocal techniques on the last album?
that was very much Dan's decision, actually. I think Dan wanted to be more dynamic and like have as big a range as possible. And also, I'm slightly speaking for him, but I think on the last two records, the two records prior to that, he was really developing his singing, and that became his focus. And he also didn't want to damage his voice. And sometimes screaming, if your technique isn't great, can be detrimental. And so he had been working on his screaming technique to get it to a standard where it doesn't affect him at all. And I think like when we came around to this record, he was finally comfortable with his ability to absolutely deliver every tonal range effortlessly. So because he's been working very, very hard over the last decade, like he's constantly studying, learning, practicing, and I think he felt that on this album it was time to bring back more harsh vocal.
Yeah, I mean he's a vocal coach, isn't he? He actually does that for a living, and some of the packages that are out there are quite impressive. See, the reason I'm going to ask this next question, because Dan wasn't actually on this album, but what's your favorite Tesseract record at the moment outside of War of Being? Because inevitably you're going to go with the one that you've just released. Which one do you find yourself going back to? Or do you go back to your music? Some musicians don't, do they? They don't want to listen to it.
I mean, it's quite funny actually, because we were talking about our new sets next year, and I'm trying to think of songs we haven't played, and I couldn't think of any, so I had to go back through the albums and have a look. I don't know. I feel like I'm literally opening my Spotify now to remind
You're having a
myself.
look at your own discography that you can't remember.
Remember when you look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're all. I don't really have a favorite because they're all specific moments in time. Like the first album was probably one of the most exciting because it was when it all began and when things really started to move for us. Um, and then Altered State was also exciting because I think that was when I guess Tesseract's sound became a lot more refined. And but then yeah, Polaris and Sondo were they're both all different experiences. I don't really have a favorite.
See, I find myself going back to Altered State out of all of them. And it's really that song of energy, I think, that did it for me. And I kind of got back into that through the Polaris album, when you went into the studio during COVID and did this like best of set,
Oh
really
yeah.
to support the music industry as much as anything, wasn't it? And I think when I heard that version with Dan on vocals,
Mm.
I've just always been listening to Altered State out of all the records that I own more than others. That's yeah, I would say that's my favorite.
To be fair, that's
At the
my
moment.
favorite songs. It's one of the hardest songs to play.
Yeah.
After we did the Portals like the stream over COVID, we actually brought that back for a bit live. We did a tour with Dream Theater, so we're like, oh, we're touring with Dream Theater. Let's pull out the really hard one. And I mean, it was good, but I don't know, it was difficult in that you couldn't really have a beer before the show because you couldn't risk not being on top form and completely ruining it.
Yeah, I mean that song Juno is insane. When
How do you
every
know?
time I listen to that, do you know, because of I call your music technical minimalism, which is obviously a paradox, isn't it? But that one, you've got to be really sharp, haven't you, to be playing that live Juno?
Um, Weirdly, that's complete muscle memory now. When we first started playing it, it was really difficult. I remember on the first tours, there were a couple of shows where we really scuffed it up and we kind of got away with it. One person fucks up, you can kind of get away with it. there was one time I remember in Manchester Academy though, the end part, basically me and Ackle both got completely lost. The guitars were open, so we both stopped because we couldn't where we were. And yeah, it was an absolute shambles. But now it's complete muscle memory. It's actually surprisingly easy because I think it's just got lodged in the brain. It's not too hard technically to do. It's just rhythmically it's complicated. But once your brain becomes hardwired to do it with like a lot of these songs, it then just becomes quite easy.
I bet you love playing. Was it Concealing Fate parts 1 to 4?
Yeah, I mean 1 and 2 are good staples, and 3 as well. In fact, no, yeah, they're all quite good fun.
It gives you a chance to spin your head when you're playing those riffs, doesn't it? Yeah, just one more question for me. I know Andy's got a question about Cage Fight as well. So this channel, ADK Rock and Metal, actually started as a project called How to Meet Your Idols. The idea, Dave, wasn't it? We were going to do a documentary. We chose 5 people each who we wanted to interview, and it was all really about filming what our efforts are, how we can make this happen. We were not very successful. So on mine, I have Mike Patton, Robert Smith of The Cure, Tom G. Warrior from Celtic Frost, Spencer from Periphery, who's obviously your friend, and Greg Puciato from the Dillinger Escape Plan. Dave, which 5 did you have for your idols? No, Rob Flynn was one.
Yeah, I had Rob Flynn, Ali Buttar, The Warning, Sully Erna,
the guy from Pitch
someone
Shifter.
else. Someone else.
From Pitch Shifter, J.S. Claydon.
Oh, J.S. Claydon, which I did get a chance to meet. Yeah, from Pitch Shifter.
Dave, sorry, Andy, who did you have? Which 5?
I was aiming high, wasn't I? I had Steve Harris, Barney Greenway.
Yeah.
But we did manage to interview Liv Christine.
We did.
Aaron Stainthorpe.
Yeah.
And who else did I have? I can't remember my 5th idol.
We always forget one of them.
So that our question then, James, because that's how this channel came into being. If you were to interview 5 legendary musicians, who would you choose? Putting you on the spot.
I mean, can they be dead?
They're not going to say much, but go for it.
Yeah. They've got to be alive then. I think we do need to make that a condition.
All right, yeah. Okay, legendary musicians who are alive. I guess we're going to go high. I'd have to pick the Het because he is one of, like, aside from lots of the, I don't know, I'm not a fan of anything really after the Black Album, but the early work of Metallica, his rhythm guitar playing is an absolute game changer. If it wasn't what he did, I don't think you'd have like Meshuggah, and then you wouldn't have basically everything that followed that, because he was such a pioneer in rhythm guitar playing style. He would be one.
Definitely.
Who else would I have? Have Michael Ackerthorpe from Opeth, just because he's a right laugh. I've met him once or twice. He's very nice. I'd love to have a sit down and a big chat with him. And obviously, legendary band. Their new album's amazing. Yeah, and then like Blackwater Park are massive important records.
Yeah.
Slash from Guns N' Roses. Get an high. Yeah. Just because I'd want to hit. I mean, first band I ever got into, I was like 12, but also I'd just love to hear some of his stories. I bet he has got hours worth of entertaining things to talk about.
Is he half? Is he an British citizen as well? Is he half English?
Yeah, he's from Stoke-on-Trent.
That's it. Yeah, you just wouldn't associate Guns N' Roses, the most LA band of all time, and it turns out Slash is from Stoke-on-Trent.
I think that's so cool. Do I need more? How many more do I need?
If you can think of 2 more, because I know you've got to head off for the Rock Sound anniversary event at Half-Past, but any more you can think of?
Steve Vai. I think it'd be nice to just because he's just such phenomenal, inventive guitar player, and just quite a fascinating human. I think
Devin can make that happen for you, can he?
Devin probably could make that happen. Yeah,
he'll probably turn up on one of those North American shows. Won't he, Steve Vai? Might do a guest solo. You'll be able to meet him.
Yeah, you never know. Oh, well, fingers crossed. So I'm just sort of thinking off the top of my head. I'm probably missing out on loads of people. and Dr. Dre, and we'll talk about the history of gangster rap in the 80s.
That'd probably be the most interesting one out of the five in terms of the interview, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. There we go. There's my five.
Excellent. Andy, as a cage fight fan, I know you wanted to just ask a bit about the logistics of the band, didn't you?
Yeah, hi James, thanks for joining us. Kirk sort of covered what I was going to ask about the sort of origins of the band, but I was going to say to you or ask, how difficult or easy is it for you all to get together for rehearsals and writing sessions? Because Nick's obviously in North Hertfordshire, I think Willie's as well.
Yeah.
Rachel lives and works in London. I don't know where you are, but do you get together very often? Is it quite easy with those locations?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, Rachel lives 10 minutes down the road from me, so we're really near
Okay.
each other. And Will and Nick are very near each other. Um, so yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's fine. We usually rehearse in North London, so it's an hour commute for all of us, and that's kind of like a central time-wise point. And for this record, I guess we did a lot of prep online. When we were driving to summer festivals, we did a lot of writing in the van together, which was really useful. And then for preparing for drum tracking, we just got together a couple of times, hashed out ideas, and yeah, I think it's all very convenient.
Good to hear. Thank you very much.
I have one question because I'm always interested in it from a musician's point of view, which is especially when musicians play in more than one band. So when you're writing and you come up with a great riff and something, do you kind of go, that's a cage fight riff, I'm going to put that one over there, or that's a Tesseract riff, or do you kind of just go, this could work in either band and who's got projects on the go? How can you make a clear separation, or do you even just sit down and go, I need to write some stuff for cage fight today, and I'm just going to focus on that style of music?
Yeah, I think if my head's in a particular space, I'll focus on a certain thing. However, I think twice now there are things that I've written for Tesseract which haven't quite made it, and then I basically just dumbed it down and recycled it for yeah. But yeah,
I think that's one of those where you have a groove for Tesseract. Ackle's like, oh, I don't know how to fit this in. So like, right, I'm going to speed this up like Slayer and it's going to cage fight.
Speed it up. Yeah, play fewer notes, make it faster. There you
go. Fair enough.
Yeah. So what's the Rock Sound event then? Is it a 25th anniversary?
Oh, yeah, it's their 25th anniversary, and so I thought I'm going to stick my head in because it's obviously my day job. I'm a music publicist, so it's good to showcase these things. But also, can't believe that magazine's been going for 25 years. It's nuts. And I'm kind of hoping there'll be lots of people there throughout its history because I've been doing my job now for like kind of 15 years, and prior to that, when I was in other bands, I dealt with Rock Sounds. I mean, dealt with Rock Sound for 20 years ago, even more than that. So I've kind of known the magazine throughout my whole kind of time in music. So it's quite nice. I'm really hoping like some of the old editors, like Darren Taylor, who was the editor at the start, I really hope he's about, and people like that. Yeah, be interesting. Should be a nice evening.
I remember buying the first issue of Rock Sound when it came out, and their album of the month was Silverchair Neon Ballroom. What an album that is. I was playing that recently. What else? And I think in that first issue you had Paradise Lost, Host. I know that was reviewed.
Wow.
It was an unbelievable first edition, and they had like the top 50 albums of all time. You know, you need something like that, don't you, to get people in. And I kind of felt I stopped reading it. Not really consciously. I just stopped buying it, I think, around 2002, and I switched to Terrorizer magazine. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh man, Andy, Terrorizer. That was the Bible, wasn't it? It's only for street metal.
Miss Terrorizer with its cover mount CD. He's got in a lot of the bands from that. But yeah, that was the publication to go to for me as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, Rock Sound back in the early days was very eclectic. It was like, I mean, it covered everything from extreme stuff to like post stuff all the way through to punk and hardcore and metal. It was just like they covered everything. Whereas Terrorizer was just the brutal stuff.
Yeah,
it was.
But they went into real depth. Yeah, I used to love Terrorizer. I've got a copy of Terrorizer somewhere with like a limited edition. Which band is it? You can see their name. It's got what they called Doom band, really popular.
Oh, Electric Wizard.
Yeah. It had an Electric Wizard tape on the front, which is apparently very rare. So I keep clinging onto it like a collector.
Yeah, because like pre-internet, the two Terrorizer editions for me, they did the top 100 albums of the 90s. I remember buying that. And then when they did the one in the 80s, I think that came out in 2001. And I'd not heard of bands like Death and Voivod and all these bands because you didn't know what to look for, on Ask Jeeves or Yahoo or whatever the search engine was. So the role that played at the time, that magazine, for it, like death metal, I didn't know anything about it really, other than seeing like an obituary video on that Roadrunner compilation that used to come out, every year, and they'd have all the Roadrunner bands on, wouldn't they? So yeah, it's but now, I mean, just one question for you go then. Hold Tight PR. What are you going to be handling that new Ginger album? Because I know you did the last one.
Oh, yeah, we're working on that right now, actually. We shall get it over to you.
Did that come about? I mean, clearly on that, I would say on macro, I think they're influenced by Tesseract. I think they've admitted that, haven't they? Which is a good thing, don't get me wrong. Did that come about because you know them?
No, I knew them later on, but in the early days, they're very much part of that tech metal scene, which is kind of sadly dissipated now. There aren't that many other bands, but if you go back, say, 10 years ago, when like Tech Fest was sort of at its prime, and there were loads of bands in this sort of world, Ginger were very much there. Because I think they first played Tech Fest in 2016 or something like that, midway up the bill, which is amazing to see how well they're doing now. Like, yeah, so I think we're just all part of the same world.
Yeah, because it's like if you look at that scene, those bands, and you and Periphery, Veil of Maya, I put Monuments in there as well. Even after the Burial, bands like that.
Yeah,
fantastic. And I to me, that's what made metal interesting in the 2010s. I think Gent gets a lot of shit now, doesn't it? Because so many bands are doing it. But I wouldn't say there were really any other innovations musically in the 2010s other than what you and Periphery were doing.
yeah, which was kind of standing on the shoulder of Meshuggah to a
Yeah.
degree. But I guess it was just taking that a bit further. Yeah, I don't know if any what the latest musical evolution is. Lots of people are fusing different things together. I mean, you've got the popification of it with things like Spirit Box and Sleep Token. But yeah, I don't know, not quite sure what the next innovation is in metal. But yeah, if you find out, let me know.
Those two bands you mentioned are actually very obviously influenced by Tesseract, aren't they? Courtney's on record. They asked her who her favorite bands are. Deftones, Tesseract, Meshuggah. Same with Sleep Token. We've actually covered on this channel, and I just said, they're not doing that. Basically, Tesseract have been doing this, and they've just made it a poppier version.
And made it look sexier.
Yeah, well, by wearing masks. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I know I could keep you here all night, James, but I'll be seeing you on Friday. I'll say hello and get my CD signed. But I know you've probably got to head off now. Then have you to the rock show? Sorry,
I do.
The Rock Sound.
I'm up for a few beers on Friday, so it's Friday night. Let's have some drinks and have some fun.
Yeah, we'll pay for them.
Nice one, man. All right, well, I'll see you there.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
joining
James.
us, mate.
Cheers, James.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
There you go.
I got carried away.
Kirk just going off on a tangent there. every person he ever gets on for an interview just ends up beginning like, it's almost like a random brain dump with you, Kirk. So it's like, and then there's this time, like, do you know, like, if you eat it sideways, it's a weird pasta. Just like random things you start coming out with. And then he pulls it back. He comes up with a good question, and then he goes off on a tangent again. Do you know? I think it was good that James had somewhere to go at 7:30. Otherwise, we'd still be here in an hour.
Yeah, even I was like, I could keep him here all night.
Right, after that half an hour of that, so big thank you to James for obviously taking the time out before he head out this evening. We're going to go through news. So not a huge amount as usual in the news. Mostly, oh, this band's got a new album. This band's doing this. Couldn't really care. Wait for the album
for 2025. I saw
a few tours, which are all kind of like, well, to me, that's not really what I class as news. That's just announcements. I find announcements aren't that interesting. That's just bits of facts. There's nothing to really debate about. They're going on tour. Great, they're on tour. Brilliant. But nothing really we can discuss on that. But there was a couple of things that came up. There was one that was an announcement about Tommy Vex, who's cancelled some tour dates. And he actually wrote a statement, which was, to whom it may concern, due to circumstances beyond my control, I will be forced to cancel the Texas dates in Dallas, Corpus, Austin, and Houston next weekend. Personally, this is extremely disappointing considering the continued series of events that caused the East Coast dates to be cancelled. Now, I don't know what the East Coast dates cancellation was. So I haven't got that information. But additionally, after burying my father and several family members this year, it has been extremely difficult. So obviously a huge amount of emotion he's going through at the moment. But it's been really difficult to remain optimistic and focused on music. On top of struggling to process so much grief, I've also gone back into intensive therapy after witnessing my former partner's second violent suicide attempt in my home. Sometimes as men, we spend as much energy trying to save everyone else that we wind up neglecting our own mental and spiritual health. We can become more intensely frustrated with our own limitations, seeing ourselves as failures for things we couldn't fix, things that often weren't our responsibility to repair in the first place. So now it's time for me to take a step back to focus on my healing for my own health and well-being. I have no doubt the following months will lead to some of the best music I've ever made in my career. So please show me the grace for now and allow me to return bigger and better than ever. So he also stated that he'll be playing us the next day, I think, which is on the 3rd or 4th of December is the next show that he's doing. So it's the dates from the 27th that he wouldn't be doing, i.e. today, or when we're filming this. So he's cancelled about till like middle of next week. So there's two things that stood out for me about this, which is obviously we've had a lot of talk personally in the local community about mental health, and people that's been very public with the Hot 1-2 and Kev. Not just because of that, but it was obviously before that we were well aware of it. But also, I guess it's the question that came out for me is if he is going through so much, it's the fact that he's feeling like I've got to come back and do these shows in a week's time. A week is not a lot of time to deal with everything you're going through. It's a good break, but then he's going straight back in to do these shows. And then also he's talked about here, like he's almost had to put this little caveat into the end of the statement, which is, I have no doubt the following months will lead to some of the best music I've ever made in my career. Doesn't need it. Don't worry about telling people that. Focus on your health. And I worry that now, because we've talked about things like streaming platforms and how you make no money on it, bands and musicians are constantly having to be pushed out there, that the only thing they can do is be on the road. They don't get the time to downsize like used to be. Bands would go out, spend 6 months writing an album, go out on the road for 6 months, and then have another 6 months off and work on material or have some time with family. Now it seems like bands have got to go spend like 50 weeks a year out on the road just to cover their bills. But are we putting too much I mean, because everyone goes, oh, you're in a band, that must be amazing. Tommy Vex, you can't have stress. You're on stage in front of thousands of people every night. But obviously he has. So should there be better compensation for these live performers so they can take more time off, or should it just be a fact that they have to take, like with James Monteith playing in Tesseract and Cage Fight, but he has a day job doing hold type PR because unless he went out on the road the whole time to make money. I don't know, Kirk, thoughts?
Yeah, you said should they be better compensated? The market will decide that. And if you're a deathcore band on a world tour, yeah, you might be making enough to feed yourself, but I don't think you're going to become a millionaire.
Packets.
Whereas it's interesting. Look how Sleep Token at the other end of the scale have been playing Wembley and touring the world, and they're now headlining Download, which is an incredible achievement for a band with, 2 albums to the name. We always come back to this, Dave, don't we? We know that CD sales have collapsed. That vinyl market's not big enough to cover your bills. I know that you can charge £40, even £60 for a vinyl. How many of those are you going to shift unless you're Metallica or Adele or Taylor Swift? Not enough to cover your bills. And merch is everything. Do you remember we had that discussion where we were asking that question. As a metal band, forget about selling CDs. Your job is to sell T-shirts, merchandise.
Yeah, merchandise. Yeah.
And that band, Spirit Box, who we were talking about there, they're bringing in revenue in the millions from merch. And, you know, the great band as well. They'll be making CD and vinyl sales, but that's clearly what's elevated them. You know,
I've seen
to a
CD
level.
sales have gone up now. They actually said last year or this year has been the best year for CD sales in almost 15, 20 years almost now, going growth.
Yeah, but other than Taylor Swift,
since 10 years probably. Then I'm guessing.
do you envisage any artist shifting 1 million?
No, but at least they're actually selling
live?
some CDs, and this is, but mainly it's because of the fact, and the reason is because vinyls are too expensive. People want physical media, and then they realise it's actually like 50 quid to buy a vinyl record now.
Vinyl used to be the cheap option.
Yeah, it's now the other way around.
Yeah.
CDs, you can still go in and buy all these classic metal bands, historic metal bands on CD for a 5-6 quid now. They'll go up now as demand goes up, but at least there's still an option. But new bands are still finding it. You can still put out a CD for 6-7 quid as a band, which you couldn't do on vinyl.
But look at those days when you had Linkin Park selling 12 million copies of the debut album. 12 million. That's incredible. And on a major label, even if they were only seeing 10% between 5 of them, you know, after tax,
yeah,
they'll have got more than that possibly. So it really is. We know that the market just dropped. You know, making a living in music is so difficult, isn't it? And yeah, you're right. They do, you know, bands just to cover their bills, to pay the rent on an apartment that they never live in because they're never there, because they have to go out on the road for 2 years every album. No wonder, like certain genres, you just have so many band members passing through the group because it's not sustainable. It's not as if, you know, unless you've got a private pension, you don't get any of the health benefits of a salaried job, do you?
Well, we also have the same. We have the issue that we're talking about. We've talked about with gigs, Andy. So you then have, because bands are having to be on the road all the time, you then get saturation of too many gigs going on, which people want to go. Ticket prices have gone up for the gigs, which then means that all your big bands are constantly on tour, so you're getting them coming around quite often now, rather than the 3-year tour cycle you used to get. You're getting them every year, which means all the big bands that you like are coming through every year almost, and you can't really afford to then keep seeing your local bands because there's just too many gigs. I wonder is it now the reality that unless you're one of the really big bands out there, that as a musician, yeah, you go out on tour, but you may have to have some like backup job like James has with Hold Tight, with doing PR and some other role within the industry, which we've seen a lot of people go into.
Yeah, I would say you do. Certainly in the music that we cover, rock and metal, and certainly the heavier forms. That's got.
Maybe they're all becoming tribute artists and playing Metallica or Motor Headache or some other tribute band.
If they do that as a side job, they're doing what they love, aren't they? Playing music.
Putting on gigs, become a promoter. There you go. Okay, I think we can move on to another topic. You had a topic about a band, didn't you, Kirk?
Yeah, Andy sent me a link to this.
Okay, do that. Talk about that, Kirk.
See you later.
Yeah, well, I ain't talking about it. You do it.
I mean, it is such a complex
know the bands
story,
involved as well. Quite, you know, I'd imagine. I mean, I've heard of it, Oshano, if that's the right way of saying it. But yeah, take on this story.
Yeah, just to give you the headline. So essentially, has the internet's hatred caused the band to split up? Misdirected ires towards the singer Adam Warren. So Oceano, American deathcore band, 6 albums to the name. I actually reviewed their album in September, Live in Chaos, and awarded it a 5 out of 10. Didn't think it was great. So Adam Warren, who's the singer, announced the band is splitting up after the misdirected backlash that he's faced on Twitter for agreeing to tour with 2 bands, Attila and Dealer, both of whom are controversial because the frontmen have been involved in accusations of sexual abuse. Neither of them have actually been found guilty in a court. So fans and critics were not happy that Oceano had agreed to this North American tour with these 2 bands. And the 2 people in question are Franz, who's the frontman of Attila, who actually has an OnlyFans account, by the way, and Aidan Elaz, who's the ex-Alpha Wolf singer who was kicked out in 2018 because of some serious sexual misconduct allegations. So what started the backlash? So there's other bands involved. So the band Alpha Wolf started with a tweet they put on where they mischievously suggested it should be called the Rapist Abuser Tour, which is
mischievous.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, those cheeky little scamps.
Yeah, they should rename it the Rapist Abuser Tour. And then the US metalcore band Fit for a King, the bassist and vocalist Ryan O'Leary, his tweet says, "I wonder if Dealer will participate in Franz's OnlyFans. Aiden could find it too consensual," which is very slanderous. You know, somebody who's been accused of very serious sexual misconduct, and then for another musician to be saying that. So that gets everyone talking on Twitter. And Adam Warren doesn't know anything about these bands that he's agreed to sign up to. And he comes in straight away and says, you know, contrary to belief, not everybody lives their life on the internet. I wasn't aware of this. You've got no right to be taking it out on me. And I've got a lot of sympathy with his post. And it just kept going on, and people won't leave him alone. And he just decided that he's leaving the band and they're splitting. And here's what he said. So he claimed he was being made a scapegoat by the controversy and that he was surrounded by complicit industry people, a metal scene riddled with cosplay, worship of band members, and less focus on artistic integrity. And also in the statement, besides announcing Oceano will be performing their last shows in 2025, he said he's going to concentrate on his solo project, which is called Adam on Earth. So the backlash here that fans and critics caused by trying to address this as a cancel culture issue, the singer, rather than back down, has just said, "Fuck you, I'm quitting the band, I'm quitting the music industry, you're all toxic."
Interesting.
Yeah, fair enough. Is anyone going to really miss? I don't know. I mean, I've never heard of the bands. And the thing, what makes me know is this is part of the culture you get nowadays. So you do anything online, people will rant about it for about a week and then they'll be moved on. So all they had to do was just put a statement out, drop off the tour, put a statement out, let them all have their rant, leave it. Within a week, no one would have given a shit about it.
Yeah, this poor guy's done nothing wrong though, other than his band being associated with bands with controversial members, you know.
Which he puts.
Scapegoat is a fair comment from him.
But he puts a statement out, then they'll kick off about the statement, and then you just go, "I've put my statement out there. I don't need to say anything more on it."
Yeah.
Carry on doing what we need to. You're going to get loads of hatred. You're going to get loads of comments.
But
the more that he gets into it, now by saying, I'm leaving the band and the band's suspended, those trolls are going, "Fucking brilliant. There's something more for us to dig into. Oh, you're running away. You can't handle it." Whereas if he'd just done his statement and left it, they would have moved on to something else. There's so many people out there that purposefully their entire role in life is to find someone to troll and attack because it makes them feel better. We get it on the channel. We used to get it on the channel when people could be bothered enough to watch the channel. And they'd attack us. It was great because I used to have so much fun responding to people. But I always responded in a sarcastic way, which used to wind them up and they'd get annoyed and say, "Well, I'm not checking you out anymore." "Okay, bye-bye. See you later. Have fun." "Oh, you're making me a single tear rolls down my cheek." But have fun with it. Like, he could have just said, step away from it, but he's made a big thing of it, and he's stepping away from the music industry, but he's going to do his solo project. Not really stepping away from the music industry, then, is it?
I think, for a start, this was their first album since 2016. Probably at the back of his mind, this is no longer a priority at Oceano anyway. I can't question his motives in that regard, but this was probably like the last thing or the one last thing. And he was like, "Right, I've snapped. I was going to leave anyway." I think with this, though, what probably is more concerning is that two other bands got involved, you know, Alpha and then Fit for a King, who are quite a big band, metalcore band, tour the world often. Clearly they didn't think, "Oh, our end goal is to get Oceano to split." I think, Andy, when you sent the story, you were like, "This is insane, but what the hell's going on?" Because there's so many touch points to the story, aren't there?
Lots of parties involved, wasn't there? So I thought you'd be able to unravel it a little bit better. So I passed on.
Fair enough. Andy, what you got for us?
I'm going to go back to a couple of sort of issues that I've raised before on our streams in recent weeks. Firstly, Paul Di'Anno, Iron Maiden vocalist who passed away, was buried on November the 21st in London. Just thought I'd mention that, which is exactly a month after his passing. But following that, coincidentally, Facebook algorithms, I don't know, there was some sort of recent live performances from Paul from a show in Leeds, I think in August. The one clip was Killers and Phantom the Opera, two of my favourite Di'Anno songs, and the second clip was Remember Tomorrow. So saved them, came back to them, and I was looking forward to watching them, but I was very, very disappointed. They were, for want of a better phrase, fucking dreadful. The band were absolutely top notch. Got the Maiden guitar tone spot on. Wasn't quite Smith and Murray, but they were pretty good. But Paul Di'Anno's performance was woeful. Killers is quite a fast-paced track, sort of lyrically and vocally. He just seemed to be trying to get to the end of the line before he had to, before taking a breather, then spouting out the next one, and it was very, very disappointing. I mean, Remember Tomorrow was slightly better, and he attempted some of the high notes and the high sort of screams in that, but overall it was disappointing. And if he hadn't unfortunately passed away, I was due to see him earlier this month in Cambridge for a show, and I'm thinking, would I have come out of there equally as disappointed? And I think I probably would have done. So
I think there's always that time when people say, we've asked that question about when bands should stop.
Yeah.
When you can't deliver it to the right level. Yeah. I mean, then other people will always argue and say, well, if they want to do it and people are prepared to pay for it, then you should not tell them they can't do what they do. Because I've said the same about Rolling Stones. I mean, for years, I'm like, seriously, I'm surprised that they can even pick up a guitar. But I've seen a live performance of what they like, and I'm like, you're never at the right level.
Yeah. The majority of the comments were, imagine paying for that. Paul, please draw a line under this now. That was dreadful. So there wasn't very many positives, put it that way. Secondly, more Maiden news. I've talked about Yannick Gers recently hitting a fan as he dragged his guitar through the front row of the stage. This time in Mexico, about a week ago, he's fallen over on stage. He's sort of moving.
I love how you smile when you say that. You really don't like him, do you?
And I'm not alone, Dave. I'm not alone. So he's moving to the left on stage. I don't know if he trips over a piece of equipment or he just stumbles, but he falls sideways to his left. I think Adrian Smith comes over and helps him up. It's a good clip. But the story that I found about it, there's a guy called Eddie Trunk, who's an American radio personality, and he kind of echoes all the things I've said before. Why do the guys in Iron Maiden put up his sort of on stage performances? Apparently he's a nice guy, but he looks like he's auditioning for Dance with the Stars. He can't possibly be turned very high up in the mix because you never hear him either. So it's kind of echoing all the things I said last time we talked about Yannick Gers, but I just thought I'd mention that.
I love Yannick. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He's the thing I actually watch when I see Iron Maiden. I'm just waiting to see what he does.
Yeah. A couple of other quick points, not really news, but sort of interesting points. Got a little story about Phil Anselmo. There's a pioneering thrash band from the 80s from America called Ex-Hoarder. In 1986, they had a bit of a bust up within the band, and majority of them left. So the sort of main man of the band, what's his name? Didn't write it down.
That bloke. That geezer.
Bloke.
That man.
He sort of he met Phil Anselmo, and this is before they recorded the Power Metal album. He brought him down for an audition and immediately thought, yeah, you're the man for the job. Sent him back on his plane. And during Phil's sort of plane journey back, the original singer comes back cap in hand saying, I'm really sorry. Let's work it out. Let's keep it going. And he goes, oh, for fuck's sake, man, I've just given Phil Anselmo the job. So
what accent was that?
Yeah. So the headline was Phil Anselmo was an ex-order for about 3 hours. So how things would have been different if that had worked out.
Did he record anything? No,
he didn't record anything.
You know the story there, Dave, as well. There's a controversy about Pantera's sound. Did they steal it from Ex-Order?
Oh, really?
But Ex-Order are not bitter about it. They say Pantera were the better band in terms of their self-belief and dedication. and they love Pantera. But yeah, but you get people like groove metal, Pulse Thrash. It actually starts with Exorder, not Pantera.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
yeah, I didn't know that he technically
that.
had been in the band.
Yeah. Last thing I was going to say was I was very pleased to find out there's a Judas Priest tribute band called Judas Priestess. They've been around for a little while, so see if you can check them out online.
More Metallica for me.
Okay. Yeah, you know I freaking ain't. Kirk, what else you got? You got any other stories?
Yeah, just a quick one. A metalcore band from Thailand called Anilin. The singer, Nerfathon Bomb, due to Thadaveen, has admitted to faking a cancer diagnosis in order to raise money. Yeah, so he's put out a statement. It's got all the usual platitudes in there. I'd like to offer my sincerest apologies, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that is low, isn't it? That is the height of scumbaggery. He's saying the problems I have faced stem from personal financial struggles, including debts from illegal loans and poor business decisions that I failed to manage over the years. The situation escalated to the point where I couldn't see a way out and I was placed under immense pressure, both financially and personally, which led to the mistakes I made. Okay, I mean, no one wants to be in that position where you're owing money to loan sharks. The band formed in 2004, one of Thailand's most notable metal bands. They've released 3 albums and 2 EPs today, and they were formerly signed to the Thai branch of Warner Music. So the band is Anilin, and the singer has been raising money and lying that he has cancer, which is very low.
That is not good. Okay, I just got 2 quick ones to go before we talk about albums. So there's been an update on the Fred Durst's lawsuit against Universal Music Group, where he claims that he was owed more than £200 million or $1 million, sorry, based on money that was obviously from Limp Bizkit, where the record company hadn't paid them for musician rights, whatever, PRS, performance rights. And the UMG group has responded that the lawsuit should be dismissed immediately because it is based in fallacy. The plaintiff's entire narrative that UMG tried to conceal royalties is a fiction. And the plaintiff's complaint fails as a matter of law and should be dismissed with prejudice. So I think what's interesting here is obviously there's a lot of, if Fred Durst can prove that this has actually happened, it wouldn't just be Limp Bizkit that would be under this. And there's a lot of artists that are watching this because if they haven't just singled out, if it's true, then UMG haven't just singled out Limp Bizkit to hold back earnings and do things like that and take their earnings. There's a lot of other artists that would do. So UMG are going to do everything they can to make sure that they haven't, that they don't lose this case. Now, we obviously don't know either side of the story, only what's been alleged and what they're disputing, but I think it's quite an interesting story to keep an eye on because of all these potential millions of dollars that these music groups have potentially earned, that especially musicians, when we talk about mental health and stuff, and bands having to tour. So honestly, because they haven't got the money, this is going to be a good story to keep an eye on. So I thought I'd bring that one up. And the other one is, would you like to own a Trump acoustic guitar? Because now you can. Trump is selling not just acoustic, it was selling electric, but you can't get the electric at the moment. I'll tell you why in a minute, but you can buy a Trump acoustic guitar. It has Make America, or Make, I think it's either Make USA Great Again, I think, because it's on the fretboard, it's on the actual inlays. Oh, right, lovely. Yeah. And then you've got this American flag and an eagle all over the body. Oh, it's amazing. Tacky as shit. Yeah. In the fucking world it is. And he's selling the acoustic guitar. There's a picture of him holding this acoustic guitar, really bad. And it's $1,250. Now, at best, an acoustic guitar like that, $500 max if you were ready to buy it. I mean, you're paying for the fact it's a Trump guitar. You're paying for the artistic work on it, but there was a Les Paul style version of this as well, which had the same sort of motifs on it and the same inlays, etc. All looked like really dodgy Photoshop to me, the way that the guitars were looking in the pictures. But what's great is Gibson have issued them a cease and desist because they have no right to use the Les Paul shape. And it is a Les Paul shape. But what I love is there are so many other guitar companies out there that have a Les Paul style shape. And literally, Gibson don't go, cease and desist to you. They're like, but they have said it's got nothing to do with politics. It's because they're using the shape. But I think I wouldn't want to be associated with Trump, but he did win the election, I guess.
Well, look at the prick
Somehow.
that we've got as Prime Minister here, Sir Keir Starmer. What's your favourite novel? I don't have one. What's your favourite album? Doesn't have one. All right, he's gone to see a Taylor Swift concert. Does he have any fucking interest outside of politics?
Don't care. I only want him for a politician, to be quite honest. So hang on, I've got to ask then. So would you have been a Conservative? Would you have gone down the Conservative route with Mr. Rishi Sunak?
No, he'll have been even worse. He probably doesn't even like music.
So who did you vote for? Come on, I want to know.
Well, the last general election, Reform UK.
So if you'd like to apply for a host position on the ADK...
I couldn't vote for the Tories. I couldn't have that on my conscience after the maladministration.
Any Kevins or Kelvins out there, give Dave a message. We don't want to change the logo.
Kirk has been ejected. Reform fucking UK. Jesus Christ.
Well, you went for the
Nigel
Liberal Democrats, didn't you?
Let's draw a line under the political discussion.
We try to keep away from politics. Anyway, right, let's do our final thing. We've got to talk about albums this week. So I know me and you didn't. Did you actually have any?
Well, we've gone from slim pickings to nil pickings for me. I've got nothing.
There's not even any reissues this week.
Not even any reissues.
Go on, Kurt, what you got? Go on.
So the three I've got. You're like first one, a band called Mandroid of Krypton. The album's called
fucking awful name. Go for it.
Cosmic Sarcophagus. Progressive black and thrash metal from Switzerland, and it's released this Friday, the 29th of November. It's album number 3 and follow up to their 2015 record, Hyper Chaos Market. It actually features Gabriel Farin of sludge mathcore legends Knut in the band.
Is that you? You sure that's how you pronounce it?
Yeah. They did an album called Bastardizer, which is a classic. Had quite an influential band on extreme metal, so good that he's in this group, Android of Krypton. Next one, Italian progressive death metal, Bedsore, Dreaming the Strife for Love. Bit of a strange
with these band names?
I know. This is released by a $20 spin. It's the band's second album for fans of Horrendous, Edge of Sanity, and Death. So the type of thing, Andy, that you would like.
Horrendous. I covered their album on the channel. Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, Horrendous. I mean, Horrendous.
Not the same ballpark as Death, though. But
okay.
Well, they're called Bedpan. Oh, Bedsore.
Bedpan.
Bedbugs.
Even better. Bedpan. Bedsore. Yeah, they're called Bedsore. Bedpan. And then the final one is an English progressive post-hardcore black gaze band on Church Road Records. They're called Hidden Mothers, and the album's called Erosion of Ocean. They're from Sheffield. It's their debut album, and it was recorded and mixed by Joe Clayton at Manchester, who does all the best contemporary post-metal, certainly, in this country. So yeah, Church Road Records. I'm always going to listen to anything that they put out. That's my favorite record label, and has been for the last 2 years. So yeah, Hidden Mothers. Go and check them out.
So you were saying you didn't see anything on this week, did you, Greg? And I think it's because I don't know any of the band names.
It wasn't a case of I know them, but I won't talk about them because it's not my sort of thing. Yeah. There's literally
nothing you've heard of.
Nobody I'd heard of.
So this made me think about it. So Not Now Norman is actually playing on Breakfast.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they've just been added to Breakfast, which we're playing with Scarlett and Tellers and all the other guys and of Concrete Gods. I don't know which day they're on off their Saturday, Sunday, but
that's in Thetford next year for anybody's interested.
April the 19th and 20th. Tickets are available for that festival. So I'm looking through this. I was like, I want to look there, but none of the names on the list of what I have stood out for me. None of them are like, that's a really good name. That's really hooking me in.
If that's new releases, I must have been looking at a different source of information, because I know Ulver, I know Shining, I know
Shining. You've got to know about. I mean, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's coming in. So my thing for this week though is I suddenly thought, well, we're a rock and metal station, and we go, I haven't heard of any of this shit, half or most of this stuff, which is probably not a good sign for a rock and metal station.
Yeah,
you don't know many
exactly.
Of them. So what my challenge for me is I'm actually going to listen to all these albums this week, and on Wednesday next week I'm going to tell you what was good out there and what was complete and utter dog shit. It's my opinion. But the thing is, I really want to talk about. I want to sort of go up and say, like, actually, I won't say what's dog shit. I'm going to tell you my 3 favorite bands out of this list.
The Gangsters Slumber. We've mentioned them on the channel as well.
Yeah,
why did I see these?
Oh no, that was Oceans of Slumber, Dave. But
anyway, I'm gonna talk about it next week. I'm gonna tell you my 3 favorite albums that came out this week on next week's show, because I need to get a broader range of music than my usual stuff. And I've been so busy doing my playlists, because I'm on like playlist number 42 or something for ADK radio at the moment. So I'm a bit like overly saturated. I've been doing like 80s hair rock with Bonnie Tyler and shit. It's like, God help me.
Love, was it Pat Benita? Love is a Battlefield. Is that on?
Oh, it's a blind of a track. I love it.
Pat who?
Benatar.
Benatar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, say Benita.
Benita.
I knew what he was on about.
That's her Spanish cousin.
Right. I think we are done. Oh, the wife says evening. There you go.
Well, got one person watching the live stream.
Yeah, what platform's that?
She's watching on YouTube.
Hi, Leslie. We're just wrapping up now. Be home soon, babe.
He'll be home in about 30 minutes. All right. Should we just ask what you're having for dinner? She can let us know what you're having for dinner tonight. It'll be fine. Right. Thank you very much for watching us on this week's live stream. Make sure to check it out if you're watching us on catch up. Please do leave a message, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.